Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. She was smiling. She thought I was going to just stick the mic in front of her face again.
I saw him thinking about it.
Oh, I thought about it, but then I thought, no, I'll be serious today.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'll be serious today.
Yes.
So, yes, we are rolling. Make sure everything is okay over there. This is interesting, the Tonga volcano eruption. As we said, we have gotten that definitively it was,
Technology.
yeah, artificially flavored, let's just say.
Absolutely. And what I see inside of the earth, I see these big square things, and they're big and they're square, but they're buried inside of the earth. And then the information that comes above is interacting with these big square pieces of machinery and creating quite a fuss.
Yeah, and the guides had said this is technology that was placed inside the earth actually for a positive reason during a golden age, which it has been hijacked now since we're in the ending part of the Kali Yuga. And this was triggered by perhaps and more than likely satellites.
Right. Just very much like the pyramids were created for positive purposes, but they can also be used for nefarious purposes.
So scientists are perplexed because there are these puzzling concentric ripples in the Earth's atmosphere. This was really quite an event. And now, everything that David over at DAP 2030 was talking to us about after this happened, he was saying, numbers are complete BS. They, I could see that, the altitude is much higher than what they're saying. And he was telling us it's at least 100, if not 120,000. And they're saying it's 65,000 feet. And then it came out it was 98,000. Now I've seen some sources out there saying 120 something thousand feet. So, David was dead on. And it's going to cause cooling. And so we were talking to another family member today, and who was asking us about, like the idea of checking into backup locations, which, we've gotten is a good idea. And one thing I shared was I don't think I'd go any farther north. Honestly, in the long-term scheme of things, I mean, you could probably get by, but again, there's ways to do that, like putting greenhouses maybe 4 or 5 feet deep, and then the greenhouse, and then you might have to still heat it, perhaps depending on how cold things will get. We haven't gotten from the guides that we're heading into what's going to look like the day after tomorrow. It's not like we expect in most people's lifetimes that New York City is going to be under 10, 20 feet of perpetual snow, nothing like that. But just again, the crazy weather getting crazier, overall tendency to get cooler.
Absolutely. And the artificial flavoring galore, Earth on her own, left with her own devices, and the children upon her body, we would be doing everything in a very gradual way. There wouldn't be any of this really horrible stuff. None of this earth-shattering information would be going on. It would be normal. People would have time to move and get out of the way so she can make her shifts. We would be getting all of these signals left to our own devices, but that's not the case now.
So the people out there that are unaware of the fact that there's, extraterrestrials, interdimensionals that are around us all the time, interfering in human life in many ways, the fact that there's technology out there which is far more advanced than most people understand, they would look at this and say, wow, that's really interesting, because this provoked an unusual pattern of atmospheric gravity waves. Previous volcanic eruptions have not produced such a signal, leaving experts stumped. It's really unique. We have never seen anything like this in the data before. We don't know. Well, that's because you're not thinking about it from the right perspective. This is not natural.
Right. No, it's not what they're saying it is. So, of course, it's not going to give off natural waves.
Dozens of concentric circles, each representing a fast-moving wave in the gases of the atmosphere, stretching for more than 16,000 kilometers. The waves reach the ocean surface to the ionosphere, and researchers think they probably passed around the globe several times. Here you go. There's going to be things that are going to boggle people's minds up into the day when you look in the sky and you see a ton of ships. And again, then people will be thinking, it's Project Bluebeam. It's just an illusion. Well, is it?
Right.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Watch live. Biden gives rare solo press briefing. And we listened.
It was
You
so
know, you
nauseating.
remember what they used to hand out at real bad horror movies? You remember when they go in there and they give you a barf bag?
Mhm.
Well, I think we need barf bags for presidential briefings nowadays.
Yes, like when you're on an airplane. Yeah, we all need to grab our barf bag with this.
They should put a warning up when it comes to presidential briefings. You know, nausea may be induced,
We're probably going to go to YouTube jail again for this.
but I can't. This is what I feel.
Yeah, it's true, though.
It's totally honest. So we see the White House believes. Oh, and by the way, while I'm thinking about that, there won't be anything up on Evolutionary for 2 weeks, as they've given us another strike on Evolutionary again. So we cleared off the 2 strikes and, sat in YouTube jail, and now we're back in YouTube jail. At this point in time, it's 2 weeks, but who knows? Because, the videos that were in question were 5 years old.
Yeah.
5 years old when this channel first started. For whatever reason, every video that they've given us a strike on has been coming from 2017. Yeah. So anyway, we're in YouTube jail over there.
Yep.
So everything will be going up just on EEARTS. And, they make it so you can't post anything. You can't upload anything. You can't speak. So we're just speaking through this venue. We are tossing around the idea of starting another channel again. And just in case, back up to the backup, so to speak, because you don't really know in this world. And of course, we're on Rumble and we're on Brighteon. So, White House believes the Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent, as we saw last night. And, the signs are that it's very close. More and more equipment pouring into the area. Just today, a lot more movement of military hardware from both sides. Again, the beings that run this planet, if we look at them from a purely logical sense, they appear to be insane. Because nobody wants this. Who wants this? Do you really think anybody wants this? But yes, they are very intent. And we see Russian troop movement into Belarus shows Moscow could launch attack on Ukraine again at any point. Troops from Russia and Belarus to hold another joint exercise. There's been lots of exercises ongoing. Family members in North Carolina were reporting last night that they were hearing probably the Robin Sage exercises going on well into the night. Like 12:30 at night, they were still hearing live gunfire. As it's really ramped up.
It really has. So there's a lot of stuff going on that we're trying to watch as closely as possible.
And we see from South Front, Russia securing its funds, reducing investments in U.S. debt. This has been ongoing. They just dropped another $900 million of U.S. debt. They're not in the top 15 anymore of U.S. debtors. By the way, the top 2 is Japan and then China as far as holding U.S. debt. And if China let go of its U.S. debt, talk about an economic tsunami. But this is part of, the bigger picture that's been underway for a long time.
Right. These are things that the writing's on the wall pretty much.
Absolutely. But we can still affect change if we get enough people, doing the old thing from Network. Remember the movie Network? Okay, a lot of people probably don't. It's from the 70s. But there's this newscaster that's going over the top. He's about to go insane because he just can't take it anymore. So he just basically opens up his apartment window and starts screaming at the top of his lungs.
Oh, I remember.
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. If we all, if we could get even 10% of the people to speak up loudly, we can affect change. There's change afoot. There really is change afoot. And it's going to take people realizing, are you doing a service or a disservice to humanity by joining the service? What are you really doing? And this makes me want to go totally out of my order, but I'm going to stick to my order because we're going to get there. GOP senators say it's high time to bloody Putin's nose. What? Well, let's again go back to that Frankie Goes to Hollywood. 2 tribes go to war. We'll just stick them in a cage. Charge $69.95 for the pay-per-view. Have at it.
Yeah, that would work. I mean, that would be more entertaining.
Well, yeah, and the average people wouldn't be losing, their brothers, their
Right.
sons, their, in this case now too, their daughters, even maybe their mothers.
Yeah.
Again, as I remember a message from somebody that was over well, they were over here, but their family was in Ukraine, and he was saying both his fiance and his mother-in-law to be are both getting basically conscripted. One's 49, the other one's 24.
Yeah.
This is the insanity of this world that we only see in the Kali Yuga. Moscow expects a written response from the West on security guarantees. Talk about a lack of communication. Get a little Led Zeppelin communication breakdown going on, right? There will be an understanding of whether the Forum for Security Cooperation can be integrated into the work on security guarantees. They expect a written response from NATO, from the West. And then we see that the countdown has started for NATO's acceptance of stated demands. The West either accepts our proposals or other ways will be found to safeguard Russia's security. And by the way, people are watching the weather over there. It looks like the weather's going to break in a few days. And so, the thinking is that the timing could be as soon as perhaps, just a matter of a handful of days away when something could happen. And then we see the Secretary of State Blinken saying the U.S. does not intend to give Russia a written response to its listed demands. There you go. So, it's just throwing down the gauntlets.
Yeah, all of these things, and I know us on a personal level, none of us would want this going on. This is just for them, their control.
And then Belarus, which was part of the Soviet Union, and at one time there were nuclear weapons on their soil. And they have said they're open to take that type of weaponry and put it back on their soil. You see the U.S. is warning about them being there. And again, this is part of a script. And I'm encouraged when I look at comments, when you go down and you read what people are talking about at all these different sources, whether it's RT, Sputnik, Fox News, the different sources out there, the forums like Godlike and etc. I'm seeing more and more people that are saying they already know the outcome. They've already planned all this. This is, more people are waking up. Now we just got to get the people that are, have their fingers in the triggers, on the buttons, to wake up and say, no, this is just pure insanity. Why would we even start this?
Right. Just everything is already said and done. It's just a matter of playing out the script.
So Moldova declares a state of emergency. This is over basically Russian energy and the possibility of Russia shutting down energy. Again, for Europe, this could be a big, big thing because we are in the winter. We're kind of in the heart of the winter right now. And in some places, if there's going to be an energy shortage, you could die from exposure quickly.
Yeah.
Quickly. I mean, look at what happened in Texas, of all places, last year. Arkansas, Oklahoma, places that didn't usually get quite so cold. And then we had that unusual cold snap, artificially flavored, and it really claimed a lot of lives. It actually claimed more lives than hurricanes did in the U.S. And I kind of had suspected that. So this map here, you see all that pink? These are countries the U.S. has invaded in one map. And it's interesting, too, because the last year I saw the figures was 2017, where the U.S. had bases in 90% of the countries across the globe. Military presence and bases. And this goes back to Behold a Pale Horse, written by W. Cooper. And he said this was the plan. They were going to use the U.S. to be the world. Well, it's not even the world. It's the elites. Police force, military force. And now it's shifting east. So it's heading to the fine dining ware country. And, they also have planned again that, woe Babylon the Great whole scenario for the U.S. and NATO countries, as they've given us all these prophecies and these scripts to fulfill. And again, they understand the power of the collective consciousness. If we believe that's what's going to happen, then we help to manifest it. Now, we have to know their plans, so this is the tricky part. But then we have to put out our own intentions and wake people up as much as possible.
Right. What do we want? You know, we have power in our energy, and they've spent a very long time trying to teach us that you can't do anything on your own. Well, no, that's not true. We can do stuff on our own, and we will.
And we see all restrictions are being removed for the plague upon the land in England. Is this interesting? Effective immediately, the UK government's no longer asking people to work from home. And that was one of the things that number 46 was talking about. He said, we're not going to shut down anything anymore. We don't want to ruin the economy anymore. Well, you've ruined the economy enough.
Right.
You've driven out enough mom and pop stores. Look at what we have going on here. Here's another life insurer company saying, yes, we paid out an abnormal amount last year. Actually, it went from $3.5 billion in payouts, this is again because of excessive mortalities, to $5.5 billion in the first 9 months. So it'll be pretty much double, more than likely double, maybe even a little bit more, than the previous year. So again, it's showing what those stats that we saw before from the other insurance company, they weren't a glitch.
No, I mean, we just got so much stuff going on, and we really have to roll it back. I mean, we need to roll things back to the alignment we want to see.
And the poll reveals how many Americans think the country is on a wrong track. 40% of the respondents gave number 46 an F. Almost half say you couldn't do worse. Basically. You can't do worse. 68%, almost 70% of people say the country is going down the wrong path.
Right. And a lot of us understand this too. So it's good to see people waking up.
And again, these are the numbers they give us. So the real numbers are probably a lot more.
Yeah.
As there's always somebody out there that doesn't pay attention and just makes a comment like, oh, you don't believe in numbers, do you? No, of course we don't. Did you just wake up?
Right.
This 3,000 videos later, we've been harping on this for 5 years. We don't trust anything that comes out from these sources. Of course not. You'd have to be insane to believe in these sources.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of insanity is when they keep lying to you, you keep believing.
Keep believing it.
And we talked about this, how they're going to have kill switches in all cars, be a mandatory thing. But who gets to activate it? Who gets to control it?
Yeah.
The government.
Oh, yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. Why? Because they care about us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks familiar. I've been on that road. Yeah. So anyway, unlike anything on Earth today, possible proof of alien life found on Mars by the Curiosity rover. They can't say definitively, but it looks like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's always been life in Mars. There was life on the surface. If we look closely enough, all the stories are right there. And again, it's not going to surprise a ton of people. It will surprise, a good portion, because again, there's so many people that think that we're all alone. Nobody else could possibly reach us here. But if you look at the overwhelming evidence going back, throughout all the different myths and the legends, all the different artifacts, we were talking about 2.2 billion year old spheres in South Africa. We didn't make those.
Mm-mm. Right. And, the Earth and its inhabitants have been around for a really long time. So I don't know anybody anymore who believes that we are the only ones around. And that's really difficult for me to comprehend now.
So it's an unusual mix of the chemical element carbon, of course, carbon-based life forms, but now perhaps changing into something different. Our DNA is mutating. Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating that even science is starting to catch up with the fact that we are in a photon belt. We're in a area that is highly charged. It has a lot more energy that can be used in a positive way than where we have been. We've been in basically a dead zone. And we periodically go through this part of the neighborhood, part of the neighborhood where you want to lock your doors, batten your hatches, because you don't know who's going to come knocking.
That's right.
And, thankfully we'll be leaving it. But the big but is right now, again, we have 1 foot in 3D, 1 foot about to step into 4D. And if you know 4D, the lower astral is the first and lowest place. And that's not a nice place, because the beings that exist there are the beings of nightmares and such. They are beings there that are actually the ones that we've seen on these walls and in these scripts, the ones that look like they're 12 to 16 feet tall and they have humans strung neck to neck to neck with their hands tied behind their back. The ones that believe that we're nothing but a slave race, we are cattle herd, and, to be used as a resource. Now, this is their domain. So in order to get to heaven, in some ways, we have to kind of tippy-toe through the astral realm, which many have said the lower astral is basically a place that's not so pleasant.
Right. We'll have to make really important decisions and choices.
But at the same time, what we've gotten from the guides is there is going to be a reality split at some point in time. So the most important thing is keeping our vibrations high. We have to be aware of the hazards. Again, think about going through, a very dangerous maze, one that's full of all sorts of booby traps and, things that could really harm one. So you have to be aware of that as we're getting through this maze, heading towards the higher ground. Because the ascension process is underway, and it's quickening. It is most definitely quickening. So there is going to be a separation of energies that is happening right now. So you gotta choose. It's just like, okay, if we go back to another Led Zeppelin song, right? The Stairway to Heaven. Yeah, there's 2 paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on till a certain point, and then things are going to just basically divest and they're going to go into 2 separate trajectories.
There'll be a lockdown at some point where you can't, switch around. So now is a really good time to get yourself blended as much with earth as you can, even growing just the smallest things. Start by growing your own spices, do something with the earth and her soil, and have that energy around you all the time. Houseplants, herbs, just anything.
There are planets that will be, and we have to get going. I know Cindy's looking at me anxiously because we have another appointment. But there are planets that are very close to us that have life on them in the 4th density. So we will be seeing those that are still on this planet in, say, 20 years time or so, maybe a little bit longer, will actually see, new discoveries of new planets that where did they come from? They were always there. It's just that we're rising up to where we can actually see them in a physical sense. And there are some that can see them now. Again, it depends on how active your kundalini is and how open your pineal gland is and how functioning it is.
Right.
And not all these planets are under Anunnaki Gigi control. Again, it's up to the citizens to truly choose their path. So we have to beware of being seduced.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, thank you guys for your support at Patreon and Ko-Fi. We couldn't do it without you guys.
No, we couldn't. We want to say a huge thank you to Miss Cheyenne and 3 Soul. Thank you so much.
And do check out Medicinal Foods. Use coupon code EEA and get a discount off your order. Great stuff. Help your body, mind, and spirit. As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.